So with COVID-19, I would love to hear the challenges with that. And then wondering, did other states reach out to you for your resources, or have you seen, your resources being used across the board? And then also, what are the challenges with the masks and not being in the classroom and all of that?
Mhm. From the deaf and hard of hearing standpoint, my binders have been used for a while across the US, and even I don't remember if it was Chris or one of his coworkers told me that they had given it to some people in England. So just
Great.
as we work with different individuals, different organizations, it gets used all over. Um, I'm part of a national organization that works with students who are deaf or hard of hearing, or works with teachers who work with students. And so a lot of the resources are shared through there as well. And as we collaborate and learn more, we add them to them as well. I don't know how much of an advance it gave us when it came to COVID, except for the sign language stories binder,
Right.
because that one really was a big help for teachers who were looking for virtual activities. I do have some that are on um, like self-determination or social skills, things like that, that the teachers, because a lot of those resources are online games or online activities, they were able to tap into those. I think that the biggest thing that helped, honestly, with my group is they were familiar with my live binders and they were familiar with the way that I do things. So when this all started happening, they just went to Susie Tigg's live binder, Googled it, figuring that I probably would start putting something together.
Hmm.
Um, and I had. Our last day of school was Friday the 13th. When I woke up Saturday morning and looked on Facebook and there were 5 million questions and
Mm.
resources sharing, I started throwing those, literally throwing those in there. So when I look at how many hits that live binder has gotten, that was created March 14th. And
Wow.
it's by far uh, definitely had the most hits. The sign language one I think I made in 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. So while it has a lot of hits, it's been around for a while. So
Hmm.
it was um, it was great to have a way to put them all together. And then we started sharing other people's resources. If there was an organization in Ohio that put together a list, it was in the live binder, and in turn they were sharing the live binder in their newsletters. And um, pretty much many of the organizations around the US that were doing that were taking advantage of what we had been able to curate, and vice versa.
So what are some of the biggest challenges with the COVID environment for you guys?
For us in the deaf and hard of hearing world, the masks are a real hard thing. Our students, even those who use sign language, really depend very strongly on the facial expressions, and that's covered up with the masks. A lot of our students who don't use sign language um, do depend on that speech reading or the facial expression, and they use their hearing some too. And the mask really muffles the sound. So for them being able to pick up anything from somebody's face or use what hearing that they've got, it's diminished, it's gone. And so it means that our students have very limited access in the classroom. As they're doing virtual, um, they may try and put captions, but our younger students don't know how to read. So if a student, say, is first or second grade and doesn't use sign language because they have enough hearing not to need sign language, the quality of the microphone, what the teacher's using, what equipment they've got may mean that the sound doesn't come through as clear and they no longer have access to the hearing part of it. But you couldn't just put captions on and assume that they're going to be able to use that either.
Right.
So it's been just a lot of creativity, and one by one figuring out, what are we going to do for this child? How are we going to meet for this child? And um, just hope that everybody is willing to take the time. We've got a lot of districts who have been very concerned about that and are making sure that everything needs to happen. And then we've got others who have said, you know what, we've got thousands of other kids, we'll worry about them later. Um,
Yeah.
luckily, not as many as it could be. But I don't know so much from Krista's standpoint. What type of things have you guys run into virtually with the
Well,
virtually and then also COVID?
just in the world in general, if you're deafblind and your world is through touch with other people,
Mhm.
and we have social distancing, how do you do that? So the impacts for many of the populations that we work with are much, much, much more profound in terms of isolation, because who's going to want to touch when you're not supposed to be near anyone? And if you're using communication language through signing in someone's hand, that all disappears. We have other things where, for instance, orientation mobility, we are basically focused on helping people to move about in their communities, in their environments. But if students aren't able to come back to school, or there's hesitancy to do that, it makes it very difficult. We've been seeing lots of hybrid models where sometimes students will be half the students in the classroom, half the students at home. Orientation mobility specialists sometimes are able to meet with students in the communities or at their homes. Other times we have to kind of create a situation for learning online, where we might use some type of video conferencing system where someone could be out in the community and somebody else could be getting that information. We might do sound recordings of intersections and have those available through a LiveBinder or other manners, so that people can get audio information about crossing an intersection or listening to different environmental sounds, those sensory efficiency skills that we try to develop.